Hi, thank you for watching Digging to China. I'm Dong Shang. If you have not done so already, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much. In the past decade, Xi has consolidated control to an extent unseen since the era of Communist China's strongman founder Mao Zedong. He is the head of the Chinese Communist Party, the state, the armed forces, and so many committees that he's been dubbed chairman of everything. And now he has stepped into a norm-breaking third term in power with the potential to rule for life. The Central Committee of the CCP elected Xi as its General Secretary for a new 5-year term. China now is under one-man rule after decades of power sharing among its elites. Xi is now all but certain to sail through to a third term as China's president. He is most likely to be formally announced during the government's annual legislative sessions in March next year. The CCP also named a 7-member Politburo standing committee led by Xi, its inner circle of power dominated by Xi's loyalists. For the world, this may forecast a China newly energized to pursue Xi's agenda. Beijing is likely to remain defiant in the face of international criticism of its hard-line behavior. It is seeking to greater self-sufficiency in strategic technologies. It wants to become the preeminent military force in the region and to strongly assert its claim over Taiwan. At the Congress, Xi said that China would promote its own initiatives to solve global development and security problems. To the party's supporters and some people in China, Xi's absolute control can be a strength. The party has pushed images showing how the pandemic devastated other countries in Xi's own world's chaos of the West. But investing so much power in Xi and Xi alone is a profound gamble. History is replete with examples of autocrats blinded by hubris and overreach after they surrounded themselves with subordinates afraid to report bad news. There is a lot of bad news today. China's economy is faltering, unemployment is skyrocketing, endless COVID lockdowns are wreak havoc on business and people's lives. The property sector is in crisis. Ties between Beijing and major global powers are under strain. The list of problems goes on, and many of those long-term challenges have only worsened under a decade of Xi Jinping's rule. Absolute power is paired with absolute responsibility, and as problems mount, Xi will have less room to avoid blame. And his worst enemy? Himself, says Steve Tsang, director of the SOAS China Institute in London. The worst enemy of Xi Jinping's longevity in ruling China is Xi Jinping himself, said Chang. It is when he makes a huge policy mistake that causes havoc in China that could potentially start the process of unraveling Xi Jinping's hold to power. Mao's rule from 1949 to 1976 was marked by rash policy decisions that led to tens of millions of deaths and a destroyed economy. After those decades of turmoil, the Communist Party developed a system of collective leadership designed to prevent the rise of another dictator who could make arbitrary and dangerous decisions. China's next leader, Deng Xiaoping, set an unwritten rule and a precedent that the Communist Party's General Secretary would step down after 2 terms. When Xi assumed power in 2012, China's economy was booming and as it integrated more closely with the rest of the world. But to Xi, the party was in a state of crisis. Rampant corruption plagued the Communist Party and stoked popular discontent, chipping away ruling elites' legitimacy. The quest to get rich over decades of economic reform created a gaping wealth gap and hollowed out the socialist ideology, fueling a crisis of faith. While the Arab Spring toppled the dictators in the Middle East, the rise of social media in China offered a rare space for public dissent, amplifying calls for social justice and political change. Xi took these challenges head-on. Xi saw himself a savior, entrusted by the party to steer it away from threats to its survival. Instead of following in the reformist footsteps of his father, Xi opted for a path of total control, combining the old authoritarian playbook and a new surveillance technology. He has eliminated his rivals, tightened his grip on the economy, and made the party omnipresent in China, embedding his own cult of personality in daily life. She also touted the Chinese dream of national rejuvenation, offering a tempting vision to restore China to its past glory and reclaim its rightful place in the world. In Xi's worldview, he himself sits on top of the party, and the party sits on top of China, and China sits on top of the world. With his third term virtually secured, Xi will no doubt continue his agenda. According to analysts, many dictatorships fall into a pattern of abuse of power and poor decision-making when a lack of critical advice reaches the leader. They point to Vladimir Putin's increasingly costly war against Ukraine as a concern that Xi's similarly unquestionable power to the Russian president could one day lead to equally disastrous consequences. Putin and Xi suffer from the same strongman syndrome problem. They turned their policy advice circles into echo chambers. Big mistakes are being made because that internal policy debate has been reduced or indeed eliminated. For example, in the name of restricting overly powerful corporations and protecting consumers, Xi unleashed a crackdown on the once vibrant private sector that's led to mass layoffs, sending chills through the economy. 2 years ago, Xi started clamping down on easy credit for property firms, which led to cash crunches and defaults for many developers, including giant conglomerate Evergrande. Housing projects have stalled, and the desperate home buyers across the country are refusing to pay mortgages on unfinished homes. But during Xi's leadership, nothing has rocked China's economy and society as much as zero COVID. In year 3 of the pandemic, China has clung to the harsh policy of mass testing, extensive quarantines, and snap lockdowns to stamp out infections at all costs, even as the rest of the world has learned to live with the virus. When the World Health Organization criticized the zero COVID policy as not sustainable, China censored the statement on social media. Communist officials compete with one another to prove how loyal they are to Xi because he has directly tied his leadership to the strategy. I deem it a disturbing idea. The Chinese Communist Party no longer brands itself as a developmental party, prioritizing economic development as its primary objective, but instead, it's Xi Jinping's hold on power that is utmost important. It was the perceived crisis that propelled Xi Jinping to power. But as Xi grapples with the sharp economic downturn, growing frustration with his uncompromising zero COVID policy, and the surging tensions with the United States, this growing sense of crisis will begin to haunt him. Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment and subscribe to my channel. Just click the subscribe button right here. I'll see you again shortly. Until then, be well.